Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ella Johnson Show. I am so excited that you guys have taken just a moment away from football and Sunday dinners and everything just to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I'm very excited. Listen, if you are watching the broadcast from YouTube, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much for that. But since you're already there, do me a favor and just subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll always be in the know whenever I have a show, right? If you're watching from Facebook, I also appreciate you for that. But do me a favor. You hear that? You see that little share button right there at the bottom? I need you to share the broadcast. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this month, we're bringing on women who are survivors of domestic violence. Well, today, I definitely have the beautiful Miss Keisha B in the building, and she's going to share her story with you guys. So if you're there and you know that you are either a victim and you'd like to share your story, hit me up. You're more than welcome to tell your story here. But if you're watching the broadcast and you're still in this situation, I want you guys to watch the numbers that are flowing at the bottom of the screen. I have the National Domestic Violence Hotline number there, 1-800-799. And I want you guys to make sure that you watch this show with a mindset that, you know what, if I want to get out, I really, really need to listen to people who have been in this situation. And I want you to just listen, understanding that some of my guests almost did not make it out. All right. That's very, very important. Now, the reason I started doing these broadcasts was because in 2020, my cousin, I had just seen her for Thanksgiving in Monroeville, Alabama. She was there for Thanksgiving. We hung out. I enjoyed her. Well, by Monday, she was on life support, and nobody knew that she was actually suffering in silence. Now, that could be your story. So I definitely do these shows with the intention of people changing their mind so that they can change their life. But I want you guys to know, if you have, not gone to Amazon to look for my book, Love You More, what are you waiting for, right? This is my book, Love You More, my first children's book, and it will not be my last. But I want you to go on to Amazon right now, look up Love You More, Ella Johnson, and purchase my children's book. Very good stuffer for the holidays. I mean, if you want to get it for Halloween, I don't care. I'm excited. I just want you to get the book, right? Well, listen, guys, I'm excited about the show because I am very proud of any woman or man who comes to my broadcast to share their story. But you guys will get to meet her very soon. Right after this break, you'll be able to meet my guest. But before we do this, before we take a break for the video, you guys know every week I always like to give you some kind of motivational message, right? That's what Mahogany Motivations is all about. Well, listen, today I want to share you guys, and I want to ask you a question. And I want you guys to think about this. I like to give you these little nuggets so you'll have something to think about for the week. But for today, I want you to ask yourself, what's in my dash? What's in my dash? You know, when we die, on that tombstone, it's going to have the day you were born and the day and year that you die. And in between that is a dash. What's in yours? And that's something I want you guys to think about, because some of us are sitting here and we're still hoping and dreaming, but you can do it. All you got to do is just trust and believe that what God has put in you, he put it in there for a reason, for you to accomplish those dreams. But I want you to think about it this week. And maybe you guys can come and tell me what you want to answer. But what's in your dash? All right, guys, we'll be right back right after this video. It's time for the Ella Johnson Show. I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope you enjoy the broadcast. You may laugh, you may cry, but I hope you'll be moved by what you hear. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you at the end of the show. You know, one day someone asked me, Ella, why do you like to have talk shows? Why is it so important for you that people come onto your show to tell their stories? I said, because people have to understand that things don't happen to you, they happen through you. So I like to be that platform for people to be used by God. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show, where we set the table for real talk conversations. Stay tuned. And we're back. Listen, if you are just tuning into the Ella Johnson Show, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this month, the entire month, I'm bringing on women and men who have suffered from domestic violence, but they survived it. And they're here to share their stories. So, like I mentioned before, we went to the break there. I want you guys to get involved in this show today. I want you to leave comments, ask questions. If you know that I'm not asking a question and you'd like to know the answer, please. We're all hosts today because today it's all about Lakeisha. So if you have a question and you want to just encourage her, if your family and friends are watching, please, by all means, leave your comments in the comment section. Now, I will tell you this. Now, as you're leaving your comments, I want you guys to see this. I will bring those comments on the screen, right? So make sure y'all do typo. Don't have any typos. I'm just saying. You're like, Ella, I didn't mean to misspell that, but it's all good here on the Ella Johnson Show. But I just want you guys to get involved, right? Now, I want you guys to meet my beautiful guest. Isn't she beautiful? She's from Alabama. Now, I get besides myself when people from my home state come on the Ella Johnson Show. Well, she's from Huntsville, Alabama, and her name is Lakeisha Bailey. Now, we're calling her Keisha B today. I like that. I think that sounds like a musician, and that she is, right? But her name is Lakeisha Bailey. She lives in Huntsville, Alabama. She is married to Steve Bailey. Now let's talk about the kids, because I know the kids are probably watching the show. We can't leave them out. She's a mom of 3 beautiful daughters. Her first daughter is Jaquana, and she's married to Julian. Now together they have 2 youngins, right? Jalen and Juliana. I want to say hi to you guys. Then she also has Precious. Precious is married to Cameron. And then we have Krisha. All right, guys. So she's a mom of 3. She's doing very well. She just released her first single last year. The title of it is Send Me an Angel. And guys, I want you guys to go to her website, KeishaBEntertainment.com. And I want you to go there and download her music, right? I'm sure it's only like 99 cents. Let's support, right? I listened to the song. It's absolutely beautiful. You're going to fall in love with it just like me. Now, I want you guys to know something about her. For 20 years, Keisha, 20 years, she suffered from domestic violence. Okay. And after year 5, she said the violence was off the chain. Guys, she fought back. Like a lot of women don't fight back, but Keisha fought back, but it wasn't good enough because she almost went to prison. That's all coming up next, right here on the Ella Johnson Show. Welcome, Miss Keisha B.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Miss Ella. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Absolutely. Listen, and this doesn't have to be your last time. You're always welcome.
Absolutely. We connected now, so.
Oh yeah, we family now. And you're from Alabama? Oh yes. Yeah, we're family. Yes, right? Yes. So I really want you guys to I like what Mr. Campbell just said. He says, thanks for being brave enough to share your endurance, Mrs. Bailey. So
thank you.
There are people that really do admire those of you, because there are people that are watching the broadcast that may not be quite so ready to share their story. But I want you to be encouraged at any rate, right? So Keisha, let's just jump right in, because I said, you're the only guest today. So it's all about you today, baby girl, all about you, right?
I'm ready.
Yes. So I want you to take me back to your childhood, because I've read your story and it kind of started there. I want you to share with our audience what it was like growing up in your household.
Growing up in my household, I had a beautiful mother. I lost her this past March.
Oh,
So my heart is heavy oftentimes because I still think of her. But growing up in that household, my mom was 4'11", probably 130 something pounds, soaking wet. She's a little bitty thing. And I had four other siblings. So there was five of us in the house. My parents were no longer together, so I had the stepdad experience.
okay.
And the stepdad experience came from men who wanted and loved my mom, but didn't necessarily want us, in that particular sense. So we created a environment for them to um, not only abuse her, but we even often got abused as well.
Now,
And
how did you know when you say they didn't necessarily want you guys? What was your proof of that? How do you mean?
when they don't pay you any attention, I
It
mean,
was just about mom.
oh
They didn't
yeah,
want.
oh yeah. They don't pay you any attention. They don't care
Wow.
whether you eat. They don't.
Oh,
I had one stepdad that drove past our school, but would never take us. We had to walk to school. Yeah, snow, rain, sleet, everything. Yeah,
guys, listen. If you're dating a woman and she has kids, they're a package.
yeah,
Okay, they're a
absolutely,
package. They're a
absolutely.
package. Well,
But
that's
that's what
sad.
we
But
had to deal with
yeah, yeah.
growing up. But my mother she wasn't a fighter. She
Mm,
did. I don't know that she even knew how to fight back during that time. I think the main thing she was trying to do was probably trying to keep a shelter over her kid's head, being um, as small as she was, having only a third grade education at
ooh,
that time. And she couldn't do very much. She had to use what she had, which was going to work. Back in those days, they made what, $4.75 an hour. She worked at the poultry plant there, which is one of the most rigorous jobs you can have, deboning
sure.
chicken and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And she would work all day, all night for a little bit of nothing, only to come home and be abused by the man that's sitting there waiting on her.
So you saw the abuse in the home. What would
Yes.
you see? What would you see?
Sometimes, let me say this, I would wake up to my mother's screams in the middle of the night. My sister and I slept in the bed together. And my sister would shake me and wake me up. And I can still remember, I can't even listen to Atlantic Star today. And don't get me wrong, Atlantic Star has great music. Uh,
Yes.
but I can't listen to Atlantic Star today because that's the music that I heard one night that my sister woke me up and Atlantic Star was blasting. And he had the music up extremely high to muffle out her screams.
Yeah.
And so my sister said, listen, listen, listen. And I could hear my mom screaming. And
Oh,
so we jumped up and we snuck up to her room where she had French doors there. And we could push the door open. And there we saw him, who was a much, much bigger man, laying on top of my mom. And he had her by the neck. And he
oh,
would choke her for a little while until she couldn't take it anymore. And then he would let her go, and then he would grab her by the neck and he would pull the skin of her neck and just, and then she would just scream and let her go. So we would watch that over and over again. Sometimes um, he would, make her beg for her life as he pointed a gun to her head. And she would be
oh.
in the corner screaming, don't shoot me, don't shoot me. And we would be, you know, standing there screaming, crying, please, don't hurt my mom. We were very small kids at that time. So it was hard, very hard watching that. So we didn't know what day was going to be what with him. And as I said, he was abusive to us as well. He would make my sister and I watch porn. That was something that we had to do with him, watch porn. And one night, my mom came home from work
Oh.
and it was late, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning or so. And he had us watching porn, and she came in and turned the TV off and said, "What's going on? Y'all go to bed now." And I want to say he probably beat her for hours for turning the television off because she couldn't turn a TV off in his house.
What? So did he ever try anything with you and your sister though?
He did with me. He did with me. He used to keep me up late sometimes, and I love playing games and things like that. So Uno was one of my favorite games. I know people may remember Uno,
Yes.
and we were playing Uno, and he made everybody else go to bed. And we were playing the game, and I was winning, and he was saying, "You cheating, you cheating, you cheating." So he started to tickle me, and I could tell something was off with the tickle because of where he was trying to tickle. So I would slide away and scoot away. And then he actually tried to, grab me and pull me to him. So I slid away and I hurry up and ran, and I went and hid under my brother's beds, and I could hear him walking through the house looking for me because everybody was in the bed sleeping. This is like 1 o'clock in the morning, kind of thing. And so after he couldn't find me, he said, "Keisha, you need to go and take a bath. So get in the bathroom now and go take a bath." I just knew if I took my clothes off at that time, and I'm
Yeah.
7, 8 at this time,
Yeah.
if I took my clothes off at that time, I knew I was going to be in trouble. I knew he was going to do something. So I ran through the house and I woke everybody up. I said, "Everybody get up, get up." He said, "We got to go take a bath." I made everybody get up. So I think that deterred, him from
That
actually.
was very quick thinking for
Yeah.
a young girl. That was pretty smart on your part. It really was. Do you think your mom knew about all that?
Yes. Yes. I believe she did. I just think that she was too afraid to
Right.
do
I was just gonna
or
say
to
that.
anything.
I
But yeah.
feel for your mom. I think that she took so much. I think that you know what it sounds like to me, Keisha, that your mom took a lot of stuff so that you guys wouldn't have to. I,
Hmm.
I bet her rationale was, you know what? I'll do
I
anything to protect my babies.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what I really think that's what she thought, that it was protection, for us in that way.
Yes.
And I could see how she thought that because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're in mommy mode, your thought process is a little different. There, I know one day, this man beat me from head to toe. And because I accidentally sprayed something in my brother's eyes, he made me go to the back, take all my clothes off, and lay across the bed. And he beat me from head to toe. I had webs everywhere. I probably cried for 3 days. I was hurting so bad.
Jesus.
And as my mom was braiding my hair, and it brings tears to my eyes today still, as my mother was braiding my hair that day, and I was crying, and I was looking down at my legs and all the webs that was on my legs, and they were still bleeding at the time. And I could tell that she was weeping with me,
Yeah.
that she was too afraid to do anything because if she said anything, he was just going to beat her the same way. Um, so being in that house and in that environment, we learned how to tiptoe around him to keep from triggering things that would make him do, certain things to us.
Keisha, I'm glad that you are revealing this because right now, some of you that are watching this broadcast, you are living with a man that beats your kids. And this is what happens to them years later. When we stay, when we make excuses for them, this is what happens. And I understand why your mom did leave. She was afraid of him. She needed to be able to take care of her kids. I don't fault her because there's so many people in that type of situation, and it just hurts. And I know it hurt her till the day she died. I know that hurt her what you guys endured because
Mhm,
of the man that she
mhm.
went through. So how old were you all when did she eventually leave him?
She did. I remember one day, my uncle was at the school to pick us up from school one day. It was shocking to see him. He was my Uncle Sam, my most favorite uncle in all the world, because he was like relief for us. He would come pick us up
Oh,
on the weekends sometimes, and he had this farm where he had all these goats and cows and chickens and pigs, and he
yeah.
would take us down to the farm. He was who taught me work ethic.
Good.
You got to go to work to live and eat
That's
and
right.
like that. So he would come and take us down to the farm, and we would work a little bit and we make $20 for the weekend. We were rich back then if you got $20.
I'm telling you, I
Um,
know, right?
go to the candy store and get some stuff. But he was at school one day, and I was shocked to see him because he never picked us up from school. And he put me and my sister in the car, and he said, your mom's going to be gone for a while. He said, and I'm going to take y'all, to my house. At that time, we didn't know, what had happened. But we just knew we were going to Uncle Sam's. We were always excited to go, to Uncle Sam's. But when we got to the house, that's when he told us that Lewis, which was his name, had jumped on mom pretty badly, and she ran out of the house that day. And she ran out of that house to some refuge because he was trying to kill her. And they got her to a shelter, and she had to be in that. She had to go like incognito, for a while, like totally disappear for a while, which means he would have probably been trying to come to the school to see if she was coming to pick us up and all that kind of stuff. So we had to stay with my uncle, until she could come back out again. When she finally did come back out again, he did make an attempt on her life, and he did try to kill her.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She had met someone else, and he kept coming around, searching for her and stuff like that. And I think I may have been away visiting, with my dad or something. And he came that day, and he was shooting at my mom and her friend, and he was her friend at the time. And my sister was there, and he was shooting, trying to kill my mother. And when he got there, he actually told my mom's friend that he was going to kill him. He was going to rape my mother, and then he was going to kill her too. And so my mom's friend and him actually fought, and someone called the police, and that's how he actually ended up going to jail. After that time, he didn't try to do anything else to her again after that.
Now I'm going to ask the very obvious question: did she ever call the cops?
No.
So your mom endured.
Not that I know of that she ever called the cops. No. I don't even remember, Ella, I don't even remember that we even had a phone back then where she would have been able to even call the cops. We lived very, we were, I don't want to say super, super poor, but there was a lot we didn't have.
Yeah, I can relate.
I don't remember even having a phone where she would have been able to call the police. No.
Why do you think we endure that? I mean, because we're going to get to your side. I didn't realize we had all of this on the backside.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But why do we endure it? Why? I'm just trying to understand, because I've never been in that type of situation. Because I know you can't speak for mom, because mom, is no longer with us. But why do you think she stayed there?
Honestly, in my mother's case, her endurance came from fear. I believe she stayed because she believed she didn't have anywhere else to go. She lost her mom and dad when she was 6. She was bounced from foster home to foster home. She was abused a lot as a young woman. So when the only love being shown to you comes from a man, you have a tendency to wrap yourself around that because you want to feel that, and then that one who says they love you so much, then turn around and hurt you the way they do. And it's a manipulative thing that takes place because they hit you with one hand and then they hug you with the other, kind of thing. So you don't know which one to trust. You don't know if you can trust it and then after they hit you, they tell you, I'm sorry, I got a problem. Please don't leave me. I love you. You're everything. And, all this kind of stuff. And then your heart beats for that potential. You know what it is.
Yeah.
You know what it is. You know what just happened. But the potential that everything is going to be all right, that potential that he's going to get better, that potential that he's not going to do it again is what we cling to and what we hope for. And you end up staying and we end up, either losing our lives or being so much that we feel we don't have a life. You end up staying anyway. And then manipulation comes with that as well. Because
of course.
The verbal abuse comes with that. Also, and you'll start to believe the things that this man says about you.
Right, because if you look up the term domestic violence, it's basically all about control. controlling another person.
Mm-hmm.
And the statistics, and we're going to get into a lot of that later about domestic violence, but they're alarming. Like over
Mm-hmm.
50% of the homicides that happen in this country are due to IPV, which is intimate partner violence.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a situation. This is a public
It
health
is.
crisis,
It is.
right? It
It is.
really is.
And
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 that's
the biggest problem is, and I know a lot of people say the problem is the woman because she stays, but I totally disagree with that. I think the biggest problem is there's not enough people getting in people's business.
come
Uh,
on,
we
say
have
it.
and I say this from when I saw, myself and my brothers and my sister standing outside on the sidewalk screaming and crying as my mother's being beat. We're outside of the house and you can hear her being slung all over the house.
Oh,
We had neighbors everywhere. Some neighbors were even sitting on the porch and did nothing. Nobody came over there to help her. Nobody came, and it still aches my heart to this day. I cry about it to this day because we're screaming, "Help my mother!" And nobody came to help. He just beat her till he got tired. When he got tired, he just walk out, go smoke a cigarette, and she's left
oh
to
my
deal with the
God.
bruises and things like that. Nobody ever
Oh,
came and said, Sally, let me whisk you away from this. Let me take sometimes, and let me say this. I feel I need to say this because sometimes we stay because we have nowhere to go. We
mm,
have no one to run to. People will come. It's kind of like a funeral. It's kind of like when somebody dies. Everybody come out. They praying for you. They give you the
mhm,
condolences. They're
mhm.
doing all of this. But when the funeral is over, everybody's gone.
They're gone.
And you're still
And
left.
that's when the real pain kicks in.
Comes in.
It's after,
And that's the
yeah.
same thing with the domestic violence. People come around after you've had that trauma and things like that, but they need somebody to stay connected to. These women, especially the women, are dealing with their providers. Most times, men are sole providers in the home. They're taking care of everything. Sometimes these women may or may not have jobs. They're homemakers and stuff like that. They can't afford to go get a house. They can't afford to move into another apartment. They can't afford to move to another state. Or something like that to get away. And there's nobody available or readily available to take these women on and their children for the long
Mm,
haul. For the long
mm.
haul. I'm talking the long haul because this is a life change for them, not a 2 to 3 weekday change for them. A lot of women end up going back because they go back to the familiar. They go back to the protection. They go back to the support and the financial support and things like that they have there. So they'll deal with um, all of the abuse and things like that, so that they can have the support that they need.
And I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people say, "Oh well," but no, no, this is real. We got to talk about this because
Mhm,
let's say you have a woman who is a stay-at-home mom, and that's a profession as far as I'm concerned. Being able to stay home and be a homemaker, that's a profession. Well, if she's being abused, she has no skills, Keisha. She has
mhm,
not had a job in years.
mhm,
What is she gonna do? Go work at a restaurant
mhm,
and you're not gonna be able to afford an apartment with
mhm.
that, you
You're right.
know?
You're
So
right.
it's like this is something we really have to talk about. So we
Mhm,
have to make sure that these resources that we're talking about, because yeah, we talk about the 1-800 the National Domestic Violence Hotline. You
mhm.
call them, but when that call is over, you're still living in that house with that abuser.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like, okay, I want to go, but where am I going to go? And if you, I don't know how the shelters work, Keisha, but
Mhm.
you're only going to be there so long.
My
Um,
mother went to a shelter, and it's hard being in a shelter. My mother had to leave us and go into the shelter, and that goes to the second husband, it's her first husband that she had, because he was the same way. He wasn't as
oh.
abusive as the first one was, but he was still abusive. Now the difference is we were older at this time, so we didn't take a lot from him. We listen, and this is the honest God truth. We were older at this point. It was don't put your hands on mama because we're gonna do something to you, kind of
That's
thing.
right.
You got five
Yeah.
kids here, so we tussled with this one, but she chose him, and she ended up separating away from us during that time. But that's another story. But let me say, she when she went to the shelter, um, she had to separate from us for a very long while because she had to go into hiding. And it's hard when you have to separate away from your kids and you can't see your children. Um,
I
but
bet.
again, in order to do that, because this guy would be following, showing up at the school, seeing where she is, seeing, trying to find out where she may be working at, and follow her back home, looking for the family members and things like that, sitting at their house, waiting to see if she comes out the door or something like that. Sometimes these women end up having to relocate to a whole nother city or state because of the mental level of the men that they're with, that they'll do anything to get them back.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit later in the broadcast of certain things that women can do to prevent some of this.
Mhm.
There's not a 100% cure for this, but we
Mhm.
we have to start giving people some kind of road to go down to
Yeah,
even begin to leave.
yeah.
But now I know you said in your story when you're giving that to me, you were like seeing all of that, seeing mom
Mhm.
being beaten and everything she went through. What did you say to yourself?
I said that I'm gonna fight. I said I'm not putting up with no man putting his hands on me. I just, I for a while I hated that part of my mother because I felt like she wasn't a fighter,
Right.
and it made me it really made me, honey. I would fight at a drop of a dime. I was a angry child because a lot of
Mm,
what I went through and things like that. It made me very, very angry. So it didn't take much. I didn't take much off of anybody, boy, girl, woman, child, bear, whatever it is. I'm gonna try to go after it. If you challenge me or however. So in my situation, I felt because I fought back that it really wasn't domestic violence to me. I tricked myself to actually think, girl, he hit you, you hit him back,
mm,
kind of thing. So, I'm really not a domestic violence victim, kind
right.
of thing is what I put on there. I was like, I don't want that hat. I'm a fighter. I'm in
So
America.
let's dig into your story. And
Yes,
and eventually mom got it together and she
yes,
started living. I'm so glad for her.
yes,
I'm glad to hear that she found some level of peace before she left this
absolutely.
earth.
He,
Yeah.
he did.
So for you, you were married to your abuser for 20 plus years.
Yes.
And let's talk about how you met him.
I actually met him through my stepsister was dating his uncle. He asked if she had any sisters, and she introduced us, and we met, went to a park, talked for hours. And after we talked for hours, it was so funny. I called my sister back. I said, "Girl, don't." I said, "Tell that boy going somewhere. I ain't got time for that. I don't want to be bothering him." I had a thing for guys with glasses. I didn't want to date anybody that
Oh
wore
my God,
glasses.
I was the same way too.
I didn't
That's
want
why I
to
didn't
date.
want to wear glasses. I thought people that wear glasses were like retarded or something. I
I
did. I was like, I must be retarded. I can't see,
I always said they
Crazy.
had eye covers and you couldn't see their soul because the glass
Right.
over their eyes, kind of thing. Crazy. But I did. I told her I didn't want to date him or talk to him anymore because he wore
And that
glasses.
was the only reason? That was the only reason?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much that was
Now,
all.
at some point, you did talk to him again.
We
What brought
did.
that
We
on?
did.
Hmm.
I didn't have anything to do that day, and he asked me, "Did I want to go to a movie?" And I was like, "I do want to go somewhere." So we actually went out on a date and went to the movies, and we were together ever since. Yeah, together ever
Was it
since.
love at first sight? Was it?
No,
No, not love at first sight.
ma'am. No,
You
ma'am. It
liked
was
him though.
I did. After conversating with him more, I found out he was a military man. He was currently in the military at that time. So I did like that. That made me think, he had some type of discipline and things like that.
Right.
I was
Hmm.
looking, for a change. And at that point, even being as young as I was at that time, because I was 18 when we met. Yeah, 18 when we met. At that time, I was like, I'm ready to get married, had kids. I had already had my oldest daughter because I had her when I was 15. So I had already had her, and I was ready to, you know, find some stability, for
Of
her and
course.
for
Hmm.
me and things like that. So as we were dating, we went really, really fast. He proposed like in 6 months, and
Oh
we,
wow.
we were married. Yeah, we got married after 6 months.
But
Yeah.
you guys were very young, like in
We
your
were very young.
19,
I
20.
was 19, he was 20. Yeah.
Oh wow. But
Very
you felt
kind.
like this is gonna work. He seems disciplined. Had you met his parents, his family?
Yes,
Did you
yes.
did you know
He
about his
was
background?
he was from Ohio, so he was here for whatever branch was here in Huntsville that he had got stationed to, and his grandparents lived here, so he was here, with them, and he had his own place, and it made me feel like kind of sort of that he had his thing together. It was a lot of facade that was going on there, but it just made me think that he had a lot of his stuff together.
And that's impressive. That's kind
Yeah,
of like, okay,
yeah,
he's husband material. Because listen, even though we may not know anything about marriage, we think we know it all. When they're nice, we're like, this seems pretty normal. He's being nice.
mhm,
At least
mhm.
it was something you had not seen,
Right,
right?
right,
You
correct,
know.
correct.
So now you're with this guy. He's proposed to you. You're married. You guys had your own place, I assume,
Mhm.
and everything is good. But at some point, there had to be that one day where you're like, I know he didn't. I
Yeah,
know he didn't.
that was
Tell us what that day was like.
one of the things that I noticed about him is that he loved to wrestle. He loved to, play fight a lot. So we would have these little, hitting matches and things like that, and we would, play fight, and we would wrestle and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't anything that actually, hurt me, but I just noticed he did it a lot. One day we were driving down the car and he was doing it. I just didn't really feel like playing, and he just, want to push and, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, why are you playing? I don't want to play. He got a little agitated from it. And I think I pushed him maybe a little too hard or something like that, pushing him off or whatever. And he took my head and he pushed my head up against the window there on the passenger side. And so me being who I am, I went ham. I mean, I'm swinging and, fighting and things like that while
So it turned real for you at that
yes,
moment.
it did.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
did.
yeah,
As we were going down the road, we were headed to his grandmother's house. And as we were going down the road, we were fighting in the car. He was like, "Oh, you wait till we get inside. You wait till we get, parked. You fighting and you swinging now. You swing when we get stopped and all this kind of stuff." And I was like, "Well, his grandparents are home, so I know he's not going to do anything in front of his grandparents." But as we were heading to his grandparents' house, um, they were leaving for work because they worked at Delphi. So they were leaving for work, and I was like, "Oh Lord, okay, they leaving." So as he pulled in the driveway, he was like, "Get out of the car, get out of the car." I wouldn't get out the car. I was like, "Nope, you can take me back home. I'm not getting out of the car." Anything. So he came and opened up my door and went to pull me out of the car. As one thing I learned as a girl, because again, I was a fighter. So at that time I had some keys, my house keys and things like that. I took those keys and I put them in the middles of my fingers, like this. And I had pepper spray on the end of it too. So I knew, I'm like, this big dude, I'm gonna have to, swing on him because he was hot. When I tell you he was hot, he was hot. And he was trying to pull me inside of the garage, and I knew I couldn't go inside of the garage because if I went in
exactly.
there, it
It
was
was,
it was it was over at that point.
yeah.
And he was like, "Get in here," and he was trying to do it where the neighbors wouldn't see. And he had grabbed like a broom, like a broom handle or something like that, and he came charging at me with the broom handle. And when I say I had no fear during that time, I really, really didn't. So as he was charging at me, I was like, okay, it's me or him. He's coming at me. So he had the broom handle. I grabbed it with this hand, and then a hand with the keys. I was just swinging, kind of thing. But he was slinging me everywhere with I mean, he's bigger than me at the end of the day.
Right, right.
So he was swinging me everywhere with the broom kind of thing. And, grabbing me by the hair, all that kind of stuff. And it was just, a fight. But I was thinking, because I'm fighting, that I didn't think domestic violence at that time. I really didn't. I was thinking we had a fight, and it
Right.
became physical. I've never had to fight my boyfriend, husband, like that before. So I'm like, and I'm bawling my eyes out, like, what just happened? What's going on? Took him some time to calm down, took me some time to calm down. And then when we came, back, he actually took me back home, and I actually didn't, we actually wasn't married at this time, now that I think about it, because I actually didn't talk to him for a while after this. and he came to my job begging to talk back to me and stuff like that. So no, we weren't married at this time when this first time it happened.
So
And
something that started out as a joke ended up being a full
it
blown
did.
out fight.
It did.
Wow.
It did. Yeah.
So
Well,
what did you think after that? I mean, because you're like, okay, he's asked me to
oh, I
marry
was
him.
done. I was done. I was like, no, we're not. I'm not going through this again. We're not dealing because it instantly made me think about my mom. I mean, you put your
Of
hands
course.
on me at the end of the day. I'm not going through that. I'm not dealing with you. I was like, it's over. We're done. Get your things and go. Kind of thing. And I was going back and forth to work, all that kind of stuff. I was completely done. He came to my job and was begging for the relationship back and things like that. And this is something that's very significant. When I was talking to him, when I finally started back talking to him, and I was telling him, I said, if I come back, you got to promise me one thing. And he said, what is that? I said, promise me that you won't put your hands on me again. And he said to me that day, I can't promise you that.
He said, I can't promise you that.
He said that to me that day. I
And what
can't.
did you say? What did you
I didn't say
reply?
anything. I honestly didn't say anything. I
Oh
think
wow.
I chalked it up as, you know, I really don't know what I thought. I think I just chalked it up as okay, it may not go back that far that it went, at that time,
Did
kind
you
of.
tell yourself he's not going to do that again because he doesn't want to lose me?
I really didn't think he would, honestly. I really didn't think we would ever go back to that place that we went to. I'm like, what was so bad that it had to get there anyway, you know? And again, the fact that I fought back made me feel like it wasn't that bad, because I fought back. We had a fight.
It's,
That's
you felt
yeah,
like it's even. It's even
yeah,
Stevens. Right,
yeah,
right.
pretty much. He got heated, I got heated, and it is what it is, and we left it at that. But that actually, me coming back, I think actually triggered him to believe that he could continue to do it
It was
because
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So he eventually was able to convince you because you eventually married him.
I did. Yes,
All right.
I did.
So when you first got married, how were things? Was he a good boy then, or what was going on at that point?
He had his ways. As far as being like a worker and a provider and things like that, we really didn't have any problems in that area, because we knew what to do as far as work. Oftentimes communication would get off, because again, him being military background, he had to have things go his way, and oftentimes he would treat the marriage like he was a drill sergeant, kind of thing. And like if I'm cleaning the house, he would come through like with a like he wouldn't have on a white glove, but say I dusted,
Testing it.
he would
Yeah.
come and like see what this really didn't get dusted. You still got dust right here, kind of thing, or doing the laundry or washing dishes or something like that, putting away stuff, that kind of thing. It just nothing was ever good enough. For him, he was always
Mm.
coming back behind me, with different things. And so me, and my mouth, I have a smart mouth. So I was like, okay, I work too. So if there's something that needs to be cleaned, you can clean it. You know,
Oh,
if yeah, because I mean, if we're gonna do the housewife thing, then we can do the housewife thing. But if I'm going to work and I'm working 8 hours a day, pulling 40 hours a week as well, I'm bringing home money to help take care of the house. Then you can help keep the house clean.
now how did
Also.
he respond to your mouth, if you
Oh
will?
yeah, yeah. No, that's a no no. That was a no no to him. Immediately he felt that that was a challenge, and he would walk up on me like, you want to fight me, you want a piece of me, that's the kind of stuff that I would get. You want a piece of me, you keep saying this, you keep saying that, and I'll beat what, and all that kind of stuff. That's he would come up on me like I was another dude on the street. Never be nothing. And if I keep talking, then I'm gonna probably get popped in the mouth, or
Oh, now
yeah.
was Jaquana ever watching this?
She did. She saw a lot of it.
She saw it, just like you saw your mom.
Yeah, she
But
did.
you fought back. Did you think that that justified, like, she'll be all right? At least she doesn't see me weak. Did
I
you?
think
What did you
so.
think she was thinking?
I felt that yeah, I felt that my girls saw a strong woman during that time. I felt that they knew that, mama didn't take no mess, kind of thing. But I didn't know how badly it was hurting them to
I
see their
was
mother go through that stuff.
I
Yeah,
was just gonna ask you that because in other words, you were kind of wrong in your assessment of what they were taking from it.
absolutely.
But we
Absolutely.
don't ever find that until years later,
That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah.
when they start acting out or, they're crying on the couch or something. So you're with him and you guys have this banter going back and forth with each other. It was like it understood. You say
Mhm,
something to me, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna fight you back.
mhm,
No big deal.
mhm. Yeah.
But when was the first time it went beyond that and you ended up with bruises and marks or did you ever have a
Yeah,
time where
that
it was
was
like that?
it was honestly, it was almost instant with the fights and stuff like that. If I kept talking, there was automatically going to be a fight because he would automatically come in and put his hands on me in some way, whether he would push me, whether he would automatically start swinging, kind of thing. It wasn't every argument we would have, but it was probably maybe 70% of them. Some of them I just got to a place where I just wouldn't argue anymore. Just let him say, whatever, he was going to say. And in that time, I'm all kinds of bees. I'm all kinds of, hoes. I'm this, I'm that. I mean, it's the name calling is also, going on in that process. So that's why, my mouth is going the way it's going. Because I'm like, you're not going to talk to me like that, that kind of thing. So we would go back and forth, with the verbals and stuff like
Now,
that. But
not that it justifies him hitting you, but did you ever think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't say something because I know it gets him going?
yeah,
Or were you like, I don't care. He has no right to put his hands on me, no matter what I
yeah,
say.
yeah.
How did you ration?
To be perfectly honest with you, I had all those feelings. Some days
Yeah.
it would be a maybe I shouldn't say something because sometimes he would come home and there would be a look on his face that I knew, just don't even say anything. Just, because if I said anything, it didn't matter what I would say, it would automatically turn into something because he would be in that fight mode. I swear I was dealing with like 75 different personalities. I didn't know who I was going to get each day. Kind of thing. So some days, it'd be like a skating on thin ice kind of thing. Some days it would be, so lovey dovey, you would swear he was the best thing since sliced bread.
Now, did you ever say, you know what, I need to talk to his parents? I need to find out what's going on with him. Maybe they can get to him. How did that go?
Did that too. Um, I actually asked, was he crazy? Um, and because I would see him talking to himself a lot. Sometimes I would
Mm.
even see him arguing with himself. Like if he was, cutting the grass and riding on the mower, I would see him out there like, doing this kind of thing.
Oh,
So, and I was
wow.
like, who is he talking to? What's going on? And
Was
sometimes,
he not? Was he on the phone or something? No.
nope, nope, nope.
Oh,
It would just
wow.
be him and whomever it was he was talking to. And sometimes we would be driving down the road in the car. He would turn his head to the window and be like, kind of thing. And then whenever I would look at him and see him talking to somebody, then he'll act like he's chewing on his tongue or something like that. So I wouldn't notice that he was
Oh,
actually talking to
wow.
someone. Yeah.
Do you think he had like some inner demons or something?
Well, I found out later um, through my daughter's situation. He ended up mentioning that he had been battling with mental illness for years.
Oh,
After
wow.
this is now that we're divorced. And he told my daughter that he owed me an apology because oftentimes there was arguments that we would have, and that's my baby saying me on there because we found out a couple of years ago she was dealing with mental illness. And that's part of how Send Me an Angel came. But jumping back, he told her that I would need to apologize to your mother because oftentimes we would have arguments. The voices in my head would say, "You gonna let her talk to you like that? You don't need
Oh, wow.
that. You need to go handle her." Or and sometimes I wouldn't have said anything or I wouldn't have done anything. It's just the voices in his head would tell him he needs to come and do whatever to me because I've been disrespectful.
Now, let me ask you this. I know it progressively got worse because
Yes.
after reading your story, but take us through, like, after this, like, how often? Because I know you said at least 70%, it would get that way. But
Mhm.
out of that 70%, what percentage of your relationship dealt with this violence? Like, how often would it happen?
Listen, the first 5 years, I want to say we probably fought every week. Is maybe a couple of times a week. It would be so bad, and I would deal with a lot with his grandparents as well because they would uphold him in what he was doing. So I was
Mm.
told I couldn't, don't call the police because you don't want to let the white folks in your business because I wanted to have him locked up. I don't want to keep on, having to go through the fighting and all that kind of stuff. There was a time I was standing in his grandma's garage, and I had bought a dress because I was getting ready to go and minister somewhere, and I bought a dress, and he said, Keisha, mama said she don't like your dress. I said, I don't care. I said, it's my dress. I bought it for me. I said, I don't care that, that she don't like it because she and I had a very off relationship anyway. And that made him livid. And I mean, when I say
Oh.
livid, that made him livid that I said that. So when I didn't know that it made him livid. So when I walked out in the garage, he had walked out. I walked out in the garage and he was still out there. And he said, listen, when I say something to you, you don't get back smart with me. How dare you disrespect, me in front of my grandma? And I said, all I said was, that's all I got out of my mouth was all I said was, and he rushed me and like charged me from like 10 feet back, like a football linebacker, and rushed me back and ran me into that brick wall. And
Oh.
all I remember was coming to because it blacked me out. And all I could remember was coming to his punches in my face. It was his punches that brought me back, actually. And his grandmother came outside and she started hitting him, telling him, get off her, get off her, get off her. And when he got off me, I was so dizzy from being knocked out that I had to gather myself because I was wobbling, trying to get to, get back inside kind of thing. I didn't even notice that I had actually been knocked out, you know, kind of thing. That's how bad it was. Oh, that's my best friend. She said she was around, but didn't know it was that bad. But that's how bad it was that we would have those kinds of things. There's another one. He got angry because he and his grandfather used to get into it so much. And I came home one day and he was mad and he wanted to talk to me or say something to me, but he wanted me to listen. I didn't need to talk. He wanted me to listen. And so when I got ready to talk and say something, he said, I said, shut up. Didn't I say shut up? And so I'm looking like, what is wrong with you? And then a swing came from out of nowhere and, hit me in the head, kind of thing. So that at that moment, that every moment wasn't a fight back moment for me. I didn't fight back that particular time. I just, turned and walked away and was like, you know what, I can't deal with this. But that was the build up to my snapping because I was so tired of, you know, being hit on and cussed at and talked about and things like that, and nothing was good enough or great enough or however, all the time, and being subject to, and even one time he even told me um that the reason why he loved me so much was because I take a licking and keep on kicking.
Are
uh
you
yeah,
serious? What a
yeah,
jerk.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, in your story you said, oh, well, by year 5 that the violence was off the chain.
It was, yeah, yeah.
Now, it sounds to me that when you just made that statement that there were times you didn't fight back, is
Mhm.
it because you were tired? Is it because you were starting to give up? Or did you feel like you just weren't a match for him?
It's especially in the first 5 years. I think I went to a place of depression.
Gotcha.
Um, uh, I believe I just got to a place where I just didn't care anymore. And I had two small girls at the time. My Jay was probably 6 or 7. She was a little bit bigger. Precious and Krisha were like 2 and 3, so they were a little smaller. So I was trying to protect all of them, of course. But I used to, have to hold the smaller ones a lot. And oftentimes he didn't care that I had, my baby in my hand. He would fight me with them, in my hand. So
What?
I'm tucking, like Christian, my baby girl, I'm tucking her to guard her from his punches so I can, sit her down and and get her, out of harm's way so that then I can go back to, whatever we're dealing with here with, this fight. But yeah, I think, they may have even got hit a couple of times too in there while I was.
Oh. Now, I know you talked about how your mom, you guys would go out screaming for people to help and nobody helped.
Mhm.
Did you have that kind of situation with him that you would ask for help and scream and make it known to people and nobody would help? Or did you just feel like you needed to hide it?
I didn't scream. No, I have to say I did not scream. Because again, and it's so listening to it, it doesn't make sense what I'm about to say. I didn't feel I was in a domestic violence situation because I didn't wear a black eye.
Mm,
I've never worn a black eye. I've never worn a busted lip. I've never had anything broken, or anything like that. The most bruises that I had was probably inner bruises more so
right.
than the outer side. Now, don't get me wrong, especially in those first 5 years, I left him 2 or 3 times. I went and stayed with my dad once. I went and got an apartment, um, because I was tired, of the fighting and stuff back and forth, and dealing with the multiple personalities and not knowing who I was going to get each day, kind of thing. And I wanted out. But during that time, and I was in a church, and I have to say this to, pastors, people who are pastors and ministers and things like that. Don't encourage a woman to stay in an abusive
Ooh,
relationship. And I was encouraged to stay.
wait a
I,
minute. A pastor encouraged you. You told him everything
yeah, they knew.
and he told you to stay. Why?
I was encouraged to stay because it was marriage for better or for worse.
Oh, Jesus.
Um, and
Oh,
I would get the, y'all love each other,
oh
and
God.
God's gonna fix it, kind of thing. And it was always things to mend us back together, knowing the stuff that was going on and knowing the hell, that I was going through and dealing with. Whenever I would leave, it was always people there to put us back together. Somebody would bring us back together.
Now, last week I asked the women that were on the show, I said, when you were going through all of that, what were your priorities at the time? And last week I think I gave them three or four different multiple choice answers. One was the man, your faith, the children, or none of the above. Because you left him multiple times, you said that means you went back multiple
Mhm,
times.
mhm.
So when you're rationalizing whether to go, come back, stay, or whatever it is, what is the most important thing that's helping you guide that decision, that's guiding that decision? Is it the man, the children, your faith, or none of the above?
Guiding the decision to go back,
Yeah.
my children. That's first and foremost. I'd have to say my children. He was the father to my children, of course, and my desire to have a whole home. I wanted a whole home. I wanted the mom and the dad in the house. I felt like I didn't grow up with that. It was always told, and maybe I had the fairy tale or
Yeah.
the television picture that we saw where the mom and the dad was always there and the kids were, so wholesome and everybody was so, obedient and, things like that. I felt like a two-parent home was so much better, with the father in the house and that kind of thing, and we could raise our kids so much better, and there would be so much such better stability there for myself and for them.
I'm glad that you were definitely transparent about that because most of the people that come on this broadcast and share their stories, that is one of the leading reasons that a lot of them say they go back is because they want the stability with the family. But you were there before. There's a reason you left. So how
Mhm,
stable is it? And that's
mhm,
for the people that are using that same
mhm,
rationalization today. It's
mhm.
obviously not stable because I think that we've been lied to about what makes a home because
Mhm.
there are a lot of single parent households that are way more stable
Mm-hmm.
because
You are absolutely right.
they have patience, they're learning
Mm-hmm.
things, they're being
Mm-hmm.
fed, you know. And I'm glad that you said that, because so many of us, because a lot of people, even women that are not being abused and the relationship just sucks, they
Mm-hmm.
stay because of that same reason.
Yeah.
I want my kids to know their father. I didn't have my father, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But there are a lot of stepdads that have raised a lot of productive people in this society, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I appreciate you for saying that. So your children were the reason you went back. What
Mm-hmm.
did the children want?
They were small at the time, so
Okay.
I don't think they really. I'm not gonna say they didn't have a say, but they never said. I never heard it. Now it's possible they may have talked amongst one another during that time. I learned when I left this last time 6 years ago that my daughters were always praying for mom to leave dad. They
Yeah.
couldn't wait, for it to happen because they knew, you know, that I deserved better and I shouldn't have, had to go through what I was going through. And here the whole time, I think I'm, you know, doing what's best for them, and they were feeling what's best for them was for mom to be healthy and out of this relationship.
Now I know I applaud you for fighting back. I do. I'm just gonna be 100. I applaud you for fighting back, but it almost landed you in prison.
Yes.
Take us to the
Yes.
time where you fought back and it didn't work out so well for you.
This particular day, my his grandfather had passed away. And they were in such odds when he passed away that he was very angry, probably because there was no closure or anything there. So he was doing a lot of screaming and yelling at everybody. I mean, everybody. And especially me, I was getting the blunt of it all. And that particular day, I was trying to do as best as I could to stay out of the way because I knew he just needed one thing, to
Right.
trigger him to go to that particular place. And he chose that day. I think maybe this day was the day of the funeral. We had to go down to South Alabama for the funeral, Alexander City, down there. And this particular day, I really can't remember what brought about the argument or whatever, but he ended up punching me in the face that day. And I want to say I probably had Krisha in my hand that day because one of the girls was across the street already. So I may have had Krisha with me, and he punched me. So we had a fight that day. And he grabbed me, pulled my hair, ripped my clothes off. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was one of the most horrible fights we had ever had. It was almost like he was just, in a zone that he just didn't care
Those
or what
those
I.
demons were telling him to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that particular day, I was afraid. I was
Yeah.
very afraid. And I knew that it wasn't over. After, and I was waiting. My dad was on the way, and we had some other family members that was on the way because they were going to trail us down to South Alabama. And so I was wondering what was taking my dad so long because he hadn't made it. I later found out he'd stopped along the side of the road to help somebody who had a flat tire. But so that I went in the kitchen and I got a box cutter, and I said, if he hits me again, I'm gonna cut him. I basically was saying I'm gonna kill him. If he hits me again, I'm gonna kill him. I went outside. He was still fussing and arguing, and I said, I'm so tired of it. And I just screamed out, I'm so sick of this, shit. And I slammed the door when I went out. And he came out that door at me. And he was like, you don't slam no doors in my house. And so I went around the car. By that time, some neighbors, some people who were trailing us, going to trail us to the funeral, had pulled up. And I said, I said, see, now they're here because nobody knew that, not these people didn't know that this was going on anyway. And I said, they can see now, who you are and what you're doing. Put your hands on me now that they're here. I thought for sure that he was not going to do that. He said, I don't give a F about them. He said, I'll beat you, you know what, right here where they are. And he came charging at me to grab me again. Now, this last time he pulled out some hair and all that stuff at that particular time. And I think I was bleeding because there was blood on me there too. But when he came and he charged me, I blacked out. When I say I blacked out, when I came to, I could feel his blood dripping on me. and I could hear people in the background. I never believed that people say about snapped until this moment when I
Yeah.
snapped.
Yeah.
And it was truly like an outer body experience for me.
Yeah.
I could hear it like in the background. Keisha, put the knife down. Keisha, put the knife down. Somebody call 911. Somebody, get him, grab him, all this kind of stuff. And I could feel hands on my wrist. But I could see him still over me, though. He was still over me. And as he was still over me, I was still, fighting, still trying to swing or whatever. And they was like, stop, put the knife down, put the knife down. But when I looked, I could see that his neck was open. Um,
Oh my
and his
gosh.
blood was running down on me. So they was able to get the knife out, and they ran and grabbed a towel to put on him, call 911. I could see him, and everything's still going in slow motion for me
Right.
by the time the cops came, because I just sat there on the ground, just in a daze pretty much. And the ambulance took him away, and the police got there. Of course, they read me my rights, put me in the car after they was telling me, I was asking what happened. And when I went to jail, fingerprinted, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was so, when I tell you I was bawling my eyes out because I didn't know, you know, I was like, what happened? What happened? I'm just like, like, why did it get here? But I was in
So
that jail.
at this point, did you not realize that you're the reason he was bleeding?
Yes, but
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to put everything together.
Together.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm still in shock. Like,
Shock.
what? I can't believe that. Probably more mad at me that I let it get this far. Why didn't you just go? And I was like, why didn't daddy come? I was
Mm,
just going to get in the car with daddy and go,
yeah.
kind of thing. Just, trying to get the things that lead up to it, because now I'm in jail and I don't know what his state is at this particular point. And as I was there, they was telling me that he had to get, stitched staple stitches or however, and he had been cut in several places, and the neck
Oh,
being
wow.
the worst one there. So
Ooh.
I was, after I got, I don't want to say interrogated, but sat in that room, and they told me that I was being charged with attempted murder, and that I could be facing up to 20 years uh, in
Jesus.
prison. And I was bawling at that time because I was like, he was beating me. I was protecting myself. I said, he was beating me. They said, well, we don't have any evidence. You look like the
Ooh.
aggressor. They said, it doesn't matter that he hit you, you used a weapon. And I said, he is a weapon. He's 6'2", 250 something pounds. At that time, I'm 5'2", 130 pounds. He is a weapon to me. But they wasn't hearing that, wasn't, they were like, nope, these are what the
But
charges
you
are.
would think all they had to do was ask the people that were watching who
Yeah.
was beating.
Well, the people that were watching that pulled up, all they said they saw was Keisha swinging and cutting him. That's all they saw. Because by the time they came up, all the fighting that happened inside the house, where he pulled my hair out, ripped my clothes off, all that kind of stuff, they didn't see any of that. They wasn't there. Nobody was there. So by the time they came and they were getting out of the car, all they could see was him coming to me to rush me, and then me swinging. So
Right.
their story was Keisha is the aggressor, in this particular point. They
Oh
didn't
my
they didn't see
gosh.
my hair on the ground, kind of my real hair, not weave. They didn't see my real hair on the ground, kind of stuff. So, and here's the other factor with this: there was no proof of domestic violence
I
because
was just gonna ask that. Did they not have any record, any calls, nothing?
I never
This
saw the
is
police.
why women, this is why you have
Yeah,
to report it.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is why you have to report it. Your story is not the first I've heard of someone that was actually facing time in prison. And there are some of these stories I've heard, they actually got sentenced, all
Mhm,
because there
mhm.
was no proof that there was a prior history of
Yeah,
domestic violence.
yeah.
So it's important to get a record, get pictures, whatever.
Mhm.
So now you're being charged with attempted murder.
Yes.
What's the next thing you had to do? Obviously, you had to get an attorney and figure
I
this thing
did.
out?
I had to get bonded out of jail first. I want to say I spent 2 nights in jail, and I had to get bonded out. My dad came and got me out. Of course, I couldn't go back to the house. There was a restraining order on me. He had my kids. So I couldn't get, my girls. My oldest daughter is not his biological daughter, so of course I was able to get her. But the younger two, he wouldn't give them back to me because now he's trying to say I'm unfit, and I
Oh,
gave
of
a
course.
tender
Of
uh,
course.
to him. So it was hard to get my girls back, and so it just at this time I feel like my whole life's falling apart. I'm weeping. I'm in even more of a depressive place than I was
Of
before
course.
that happened, because in my effort to protect me and defend me, now I'm fighting for me, and I'm busy trying to prove to somebody that I was only protecting myself. And a lot of people, a lot of my family members, except for my dad, maybe a sister or brother there, knew about it, but a whole lot of people didn't know I was abused. His grandparents wasn't going to talk against him. So I really didn't have any proof because I never told anybody. I never said anything. I just did
Oh.
it. My babies in the house could have been my very witnesses that was there, but anybody else, nobody ever knew. Um,
Now, before anybody judges, this is so important. She didn't believe she was in a domestic violence situation,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
That's
That's
very
correct.
important because you were fighting him back. So
Mhm,
for her, it was fair game.
mhm,
He hit
mhm,
me, I hit him back. Just two
mhm,
people that are fighting. Don't cry
mhm,
about it. You hit me and I hit you back.
mhm,
So what
mhm,
if I got the better of you?
mhm,
We both in this. So
mhm,
I understand why you were going there, but there did come a point where you stopped fighting back.
mhm.
You stopped fighting him back, and it really did become
It got worse.
100% domestic
Yeah.
violence at that
Yes.
point. But I understand why you didn't tell. A lot of people don't tell, guys. I was looking at the statistics. It's alarming, the people who don't report this, especially
Mhm,
men, because they feel ashamed. And I
mhm.
think you mentioned to me earlier today before we started the broadcast that you felt embarrassed,
I did.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
as to why you were going through this. And
Yeah.
I want to bring up some of these
Yeah.
comments that some of the people are saying here. Jaquana had no
That's my oldest
idea.
daughter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Jaquana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is why we do these shows, guys. This is why we
Mhm,
do these shows because there's so many people even watching this broadcast suffering in silence. And
mhm,
I know we haven't perfected the best way to get out. But that's
mhm,
why collectively we're going to figure this thing out because you got to have a safety plan. Now,
mhm.
after you went to jail and you're in this situation, what happened next, Keisha?
We were separate for about 30 days.
Okay.
And we ended up talking to one another. He wanted to get to me to talk to me. And of course, he was telling me everything that the prosecutors was telling him to say, and about pressing charges, and keeping the charges and all that kind of stuff, and making sure they put me away. But he told me at that time that he was not going to do that. He said, you're the mother of my children. He said you could have had me locked up several times,
That's
um,
right.
because I know what I've done. He said, and I know what I did that day. He said, and that's the last thing I want is for my children's mother to go to prison. He said, so I'm not pressing any charges, but he wanted us back together. And
Oh, wow.
yeah,
So here's the carrot.
yeah,
You take me back, this is all
yeah,
forgotten.
yeah,
So what would you do?
yeah.
Like those of you that are watching this broadcast, like real talk, what would you do if you're facing prison and all you have to do is go back? I would have
Mhm,
absolutely gone back too. I would
mhm,
have had a plan. I would have definitely had an exit plan. I would have made
mhm.
sure that those charges are literally dropped. Like, let me see the paperwork. It is
Yeah,
dropped, right? Good.
yeah. And
Right?
that's
I need
exactly
to
what I
check
did.
first.
That was my mindset. That was my
Right,
mindset. I
right.
needed these charges to go away because it didn't look good for me, with where I was standing. So I said, I need to go back. And my plan was to go back and just only be back for a little while. And then I was going to sure enough go,
But
and get
that's not
on
what you
from there.
did. That's
But
not what
that's
you
not what
did.
I did. No,
Do
no.
tell.
We were
What
we were
did you
still
do?
we were still together for 15 more years. After that.
What?
Yeah, because
Wait a minute.
this was at our 5th year. Yeah. We were together 15 more years after that. But let me say, after that incident happened, it got better. It got a lot better. He wasn't physical anymore.
Okay.
We would have little spats and things like that, little arguments, but I could tell he was really working hard trying to fight those demons, trying to fight, the mental war that was happening in his head. Because he would say to me, I don't want to hit you. I don't want to put my
Mm,
hands on you. I don't want to have to hit my wife. He said, I'm looking for, better ways to, you know, um, express, my anger or my energy. But
of
sometimes
course.
he would just get so mad that he couldn't hold it. He couldn't, he would have those rages where he'd be like, "Arr!" Literally he would do, that, especially if things wasn't going his way. The talking and all that
Wow.
stuff didn't cease, but I could tell. And let me say this too. When we would have those heated arguments, my very first thing that I would do is let me grab the phone and call the police real quick, because apparently you're not gonna put your hands on me, and if that's what you're talking about, you're gonna do. Let me dial 911 real quick and get the cops over here, because I learned that because there was no proof, because there was no evidence before, they didn't believe, that he had put his hands on me before. So I was like, I'm gonna make a record this time. So just in case, if I do take him out, I got record that they had to, come here on this day, or they had to come on that day, so on and so forth there. So I did start calling the cops, or I would tell the girls, my girls, to, call the police, because, daddy's, acting crazy kind of
Now
thing.
I want to talk about this because there is no easy way. I would not be a good talk show host if I didn't present different scenarios for calling the cops. I interviewed a woman on my show once whose daughter was being abused, and she finally got her daughter to call the police. And so she was excited. The daughter called the police, and she was like, "Finally, my daughter is standing up for herself." Well, at that time, the daughter was on house arrest for some unrelated issue. She couldn't leave the apartment. Well, when he went back to the house, he found out that they pulled him over, but he was released on a bond. I think it's a PR bond or something like that. They released him. Well, when he went back to that apartment, this is what he did. He took a knife, and she was pregnant at the time. That's why she was really trying to get her life together. She was pregnant at the time. He took a knife and stabbed this young woman 20 times in her stomach, killed her. But she called the cops. So it's like, I get it that we advise and encourage people to call the cops, but it could go bad either way,
Mm-hmm.
Keisha.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I had to share that too, because like you could have called the cops all
Mm-hmm.
those times before, and it could have made him angry. I mean, you were dealing with someone that was not there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he could have done the same thing, come back, made you think that everything's good, and stab you
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the night just
That's
because you
true.
called the cops.
That's true.
So it's like we have to find a way. How do we call the cops and then get out of town?
Yep.
Let the cops handle it.
Yep.
And I think one thing that's going to help us is that whenever we start calling the cops and the cops force us to keep it going, like, oh, no, no, no. Once you call us, and because we've been to your house several times, you don't get to stop anything. It's in our hands now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. And honestly, that's a help for us,
Right.
to do that, because, and again, remember when I was saying I didn't feel I was in a domestic violence situation. I didn't feel that I was an abused woman. I was in denial. I was
Right.
definitely an abused woman. I was definitely
Definitely.
in a domestic violence situation.
Definitely.
And I was definitely on the edge of and a possibility of losing my life, because
Yeah.
I kept staying regardless of what the situation was. I kept staying, thinking things was going to get better, hoping for things to get better, but they never did. So you're absolutely right. You do have to be careful when you call the cops, and you do need that force in your life that's going to help you stick with it. And that's exactly what happened for me. That actually helped me get out. Yeah.
My advice to women: if you're going to call the police, don't go back to that house.
Yeah.
have a plan.
Yeah.
Because you have to find a way to get out. The women that I interviewed, they were obviously lucky, a lot
Mhm.
of them. But I've had a lady on the show, a woman who the abuser didn't kill her. He shot and killed their 18-year-old son in
Mm,
broad daylight, right in front of her. Matter of
mm,
fact, he shot both of the sons, and only one of them lived.
mm.
So this thing can be very ugly. Staying is not good. Going can be risky. So we're gonna talk a little bit, Keisha, because I after we talk about how yours ended, we're
Mhm.
gonna talk about what we could do to encourage other women, what
Absolutely.
they could do. So what happened next? You went back to him. He was doing good for a while.
Mhm.
How long did
And
it
then
last?
it lasted probably maybe a couple of years.
Okay,
But then it began to escalate a lot
again.
more, a little bit here, a little bit there. It wasn't like every week, but maybe once a month we would have this, horrible, argument. Or however, didn't really get too physical because, of course, I would threaten with calling the cops. Sometimes we would call the cops. They would take him to jail. His grandmother would go bond him out, and he'd come right back in, and I think he had gotten confident that nothing was going to happen
He
to him
was right though.
when
He was
that's
right.
yeah. In the state of Alabama, it's a little different when it comes to domestic violence. I really don't feel they're as hard as they should be, because after a while, you have a change of heart or a change of feelings and things like that. When you're in a manipulative situation, where you really want your relationship and the situation that you're in, but you're afraid on the other hand as well. And then we would go to court on where I had called the cops on him or something like that. You stand there in front of the judge, and the judge doesn't ask any questions. Ma'am, do you feel hurt, or do you feel you're in a domestic situation? Are you afraid right now? None of that. He'd just say, oh, okay, y'all back together. Okay, good. Don't do it no more. Click, y'all go. Have a good day. That's all you get, and you walk away, and it's done. So that's what would happen whenever I would, call the cops or however, and they would take him to jail.
And for the record, the story that I just told you about the woman who lost her son, that was in Troy, Alabama.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. And she
They're not
said she called the cops like thousands of times and
hard.
nothing ever happened.
They really don't frown very much upon men beating on women here. I want to say
Jesus.
that is one of the what they call Alabama dumb laws, but it used to be a law that a man could bring his wife to the courthouse steps and beat her as long as he wanted to, as long as he didn't kill her. Some years back, that was
That was a law?
Mhm. that
Really?
that they could do that as long as he didn't kill her. You can beat her within an inch of a life, but you just couldn't kill her.
That's not a law anymore.
I don't think it's a law anymore. No,
Okay.
no,
Well,
no.
we're going
But
to call you out, Alabama. That's dumb. And yes, I know Alabama's my home state, but that's dumb. We have
yeah,
to protect our women.
yeah,
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So you went back,
yes,
things were better.
yes.
How did you eventually say, you know what? This is a wrap. I am done this time.
Let me
What
tell you,
happened
we
that
had
took
been
you?
arguing a lot, and it was getting bad. It was back to him, walking up in my face, kind of thing, wanting to, put his hands on me and stuff. But, we would, work our way through it. Or however, we ended up going to Georgia. We loved going to what they call old school Saturdays down there. And we went down there. We would always get a hotel, enjoy that Saturday, so on and so forth. But I knew something was off that particular day, because he was just so angry and just so mad. It didn't matter what I said or what I did. He was just, super, super pissed off. And so that morning, we woke up. We had two queen beds in that room. He slept in the other bed, and I slept in the other bed. So we got up that morning. We had a horrible, horrible fight, a horrible
Mm.
argument that led to a fight that ended with him rushing me. Um, it ended with him rushing. He was standing by the door a little bit, and he came rushing toward me across the bed. We were on the bed, and we were fighting on the bed, and I was trying to slide away from him, sliding under him, kind of thing. So we fell off the bed over there on the side, and as we got on the floor, that's where we were, where he was choking me, and I was trying to get his hands off my neck. At that time, I managed to get one hand off, But he grabbed it back, and he was back choking me even tighter. And I remember in that moment that was happening, I was like having, I don't know, maybe an epiphany or something, but I was just saying, God, if you get me out of this one, I
I'm
will
done.
not be back. I said,
Yes.
I won't be back. And so I was still, struggling, trying to get his hands off my neck. But I couldn't get him off, and I could feel myself, going lighter, however. But I started feeling around the room, for something, and there was a floor lamp there in the hotel. And I grabbed the floor lamp and I started swinging the floor lamp and hitting him with the floor lamp, and he let me go. And the glass from the floor lamp broke. I was nude at that time. So I started scooting away as he was, I guess coming from over me, however. So that glass from that bulb kind of cut my back up a bit as I was sliding away. But I began to scream, help me, help me. He's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me. Help me, help me. And he was like in a whole fit of rage. He was screaming, look what you done. Look what you did. I can't believe you. You got me out. I mean, and I was terrified at that point because I felt like he was probably going, finish the job. So I was trying to stay quiet. In that moment, I was trying to get to the phone because I wanted to, call down. Of course, when you're at a hotel, you can't dial straight 911. You have to get the operator down at the front desk, is what you get at that particular phone. I don't think I could call 911. I think I just had to do the operator at first. And he kept hanging up the phone. He wouldn't let me call. I was trying to get out of the door. He wouldn't let me get out of the door. And I was screaming. Those walls must have been Fort Knott thick because nobody came to my door. Nobody came in
Jeez.
and knocked or anything saying, ma'am, are you okay? Nothing. And I was screaming to the top of my lungs, help me, help me. Somebody help me. And I was trying to put my clothes on. He wouldn't let me put my clothes on. And so he grabbed the phone, because I was trying to, call the police or however. He grabbed it and he called the operator. And when he called the operator, he said, I need the police up here now. My wife just jumped on me and I need some help. And I could hear the operator say, sir, are you serious? And I was yelling at them and I said, no, he just tried to kill me. Somebody please, send the cops up here. And I could hear them saying, are y'all serious? Are y'all serious? Y'all really need the police? And then he slammed the phone down and he said, now, he said, if I go to jail, you gonna go to jail too. And I was still screaming at the top of my lungs, asking for help, screaming for help. And he ended up going out of the door. When he went out of the door, I put the lock on it, so he couldn't get back in, even though he had the key, that little thing that
You're
swings.
right. Mm-hmm.
Put that on there so he couldn't get back in. He kept trying to come back in. And I called the operator again because I don't know if she thought it was a joke or whatever. And that's when I
Right.
told her, then please call the police. And she said, I didn't know that if you guys were, I said, no, I am not joking. Please call the police. My husband just tried to kill me, up here. And so she did call the police. The police got there. Um, he was nowhere in sight, and he took my cell phone with him too, so I couldn't call, anybody at that particular time. When the police got there, well, no, I called my girls, um, and I was telling my girls to come get me and telling them all about what had happened. The police got there, and there was a detective. I cannot remember this guy's name for nothing. I can see his face, but I can't remember his name. He was asking me questions about how much it had happened and how long had I been dealing with what I've been dealing with. And I told him that I tried to leave, and we're going through the motions of the story. And he asked me, he said, "Do you want to get out?" And I said, "I want to get out." He said, he said, "Do you really want to get out?" He said, "Because I can fix it where you can get out and you won't have to worry about him again." And I said, "I want to be out." I said, "I don't want to come back." I said, "I need, to be free." I said, "He just, he tried to kill me, basically. And I want to go. And he said, okay. He put a warrant out for his arrest immediately, at that time
Mm.
because he was gone. They couldn't find him. They were looking for him to question him, however, but he was already gone. And he told me, he said, I'll take it from here. And he and I stayed in touch during that particular process. By the time my girls made it there, and I was supposed to check out of the room, but I asked them to let me stay. in the room because I didn't want to be down there looking the way I was looking and, all that kind of stuff. So um, they let me stay in the room without a problem. And then when my girls got there, as we were, driving back, of course, I was a mess, a hot mess, just bawling my eyes out because I couldn't believe what had happened and
Right.
angry at myself. I was going through a whole bunch of emotions of, you should
I'm
have left a
sure.
long time ago, all that kind of stuff. But we got back to Alabama and he was parking the vehicles so that I couldn't get a car. That's another thing that he used to always try to do too. If I ever tried to leave him or whenever we would get into it, he would try to take everything away that he felt he bought for me, that, kind of
Ugh.
thing, that controlling kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
was parking the vehicles so that I couldn't get one. And we had 6 vehicles at the time. So he was parking them one behind the other because I didn't have my keys, nothing. He left with everything. And so I was saying I need a car so I can go because I wasn't planning on staying at the house. I was gonna go on and not because I wasn't coming back, but he wouldn't give me one. So I said, call the police and let's let the police make him give me the keys and all that kind of stuff. He We called the police got there. He was still clowning. She ain't getting nothing. I don't have to give her anything, blah, 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 blah. And so I told him, I said, well, he has a warrant for his arrest. He said, I don't have a warrant for my arrest. That, I ain't done nothing, so on and so forth. And they did check for the warrant for his arrest. And they told him that he did and that he had to come with them. And
Good.
so they took him with them to the Athens station. He ended up being extradited back to Georgia because Georgia was the one who had the warrant. And he thought that he was going to get to go to court the next day and get out and come back. I actually thought that that's what was going to happen. I was like, he's going to get out. I said he's going to be even more angry. I was like, I'm just going to get my things and, I'm just going to go because I don't want to be here, when he comes back because I know it's, going to be bad or whatever. But they ended up not letting him go to court. They ended up keeping him there. And to make a long story short, he ended up staying in jail for 9 months behind that. They wouldn't give him a bond. They wouldn't give him a
That's
bond.
good.
They wouldn't give him anything. Several times he was not to contact me or anything during those times, or it would lengthen, of course, his time. But of course, he was contacting me. He was trying to reach me through the kids and all that type of stuff. After a while, I go back to that mode of trying to help him. Here I am, the victim, and I'm trying to help him. I tried to drop the charges, tried to drop them. I did.
After all of that, you wanted to, why?
I wanted to drop the charges because I kept saying he didn't deserve it. I was like, I don't want to, I just wanted to let it all go away. Even though
Right.
he did what he did to me, he
Right.
choked me. That man choked me in that room. That man picked up his foot and stomped me in that room, in that hotel room. He stomped me 3 or 4 times in that room and choked me till I was about to pass out. But I was still saying he don't deserve that. I just, I still felt I was going to get a divorce, but I just didn't want him to, be in jail, let him out, kind of thing. But the
And
state,
you might have been feeling somewhat guilty because of what he did for you, in other words, when he refused to
possibly,
press the charges.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, possibly,
Oh,
because those were the things that he was saying to me on the phone when we
yeah.
were talking on the phone. I would never do this to you. I would never put you in this situation. I would never.
Yeah.
I didn't lock you up, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm bawling, at the time, like
I'm
he
sure.
didn't do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But whenever we would go to court, they would talk about him contacting me. They had those calls recorded, so they would play them, in court and that kind of stuff. But the state of Georgia told me that I did not have any charges to drop.
Ooh.
The crime he committed was against the state of Georgia, and
Ooh.
Georgia was following through with those particular charges. And that's what saved me. That's the honest to God truth, what saved me, because I probably would have been back in that
Yeah.
situation because I didn't know how to let go. I mean, 20 years in it, you psychologically, go to
Wow.
a place that this is normal now. Oh, we're going to fight. It'll be all right. We'll be back together, kind of thing. And he'll be calm and, we'll be calm, that kind of thing. But I have to say the Georgia laws saved my life. really and truly, because I probably would have been back. We'd have had more fights, may not have made it out, kind of thing. So I'm grateful for those 9 months that he stayed locked up. It gave me time to get myself together, time to get things situated. Um, it helped me, keep financially and keep things together. I could work and feel okay, uh, in that process, and not have to worry about him being somewhere,
Yeah.
around the corner or whatever.
Right, lurking in the shadows,
Yeah.
so to speak. So after those 9 months, he got out.
He did. He did. He got out with they gave him 5 years of probation. They gave him time served for the actual sentence, 5 years of probation, and he was told that if there was another situation with this particular issue or pertaining to that particular issue, he would have to come in and do the remainder of those 5 years. And he had to go and take anger management courses and classes and that kind of thing.
Do you think that was a fair judgment against him?
Knowing what I know today, no. I think he probably should have stayed locked up. I know that being locked up would have changed him. If it didn't do anything for him in 9 months, 3-4 years,
He has mental illness.
yeah,
A cell doesn't help mental illness.
yeah,
And I don't believe in bashing anyone on this broadcast, because I think that whatever he did, something led him to it.
yeah, yeah.
And we have to deal with that demon.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like they didn't. Where is he now?
He lives here in the city of Athens. Well, Tanner. Now he's here. He's remarried. He remarried probably about 3 or 4 months after we divorced. A few months after we divorced, I believe. And I hate to say it and put it on the broadcast like this, but she's going through hell.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
listen,
it's worse. It's worse for her. And I really hate that for her. And I really wish, even if she sees this show, I really don't care. I wish she finds some type of way to get out and go.
I do too.
Before
See, this is what I'm talking about. That's why the stats keep rising.
Yeah.
Because people just keep falling into this. And there's no judgment here on the Ella Johnson Show. We just like to talk about stuff so that we can help each other get out of these situations. Now, Keisha, looking back, this is the Keisha today, looking back at the Keisha then, what would you tell her?
I would have told her to go and don't look back at the first time he hit her. Only thing that would make me regret that call is my beautiful girls that came out of this marriage. If I had not gone back at that time, I wouldn't have them.
So that's one thing, advice we have. After the first time, get out. Because we can clearly see in every single situation that I've heard of on this broadcast, from people telling their stories, not one time did it happen one time.
Yeah.
So you can't love them. And that's another question I want to ask you, Keisha. Do you believe that at some point, did you think this way? I can just love him into changing. Did you think that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I absolutely thought that. I thought that my love was going to conquer this thing, honey, and that we were going to ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after. He was going to be healed from whatever it was, and I was going to be okay, and we wouldn't have to worry about it, ever again. And that was after every situation. That was after every one of them. You end up tricking your mind into believing that you can heal this person from what it is that they're dealing with and what it is that they're going through, because they love you. I had no doubt that he loved me. It's the problem is that he didn't know how to manifest that without having to put his hands on me, kind of thing.
So that's number 2. Just because this man is apologizing to you, making you think he's going to change, your love can't help him. If God's love can't help him, your love can't help him. Okay. Right. So we have to remember that. That's number two. Now, another thing, Keisha, did you think that whenever he said that he loved you,
Mhm.
did you think that, or he showed like some type of anger towards you? Did you think that, oh, he just loves me. He is crazy. He doesn't want me. In some women cases, it's the man being jealous or he's
Mhm.
saying certain things that you did you think that was love?
Um, I honestly didn't deal with the jealousy side of it as far as when it comes to another man, kind of thing. I dealt with the jealousy side of it when it came to advancing myself. um,
Mm.
like trying to go to school or pursuing my music, those things that I love to do, stepping into ministry, those things he was extremely jealous of because he didn't want my head to be higher than his, kind of
Ooh.
thing. It is how he felt. He didn't want to see me grow, and I didn't get that kind of support when I wanted to start a business or something like that. We had to do things the way he wanted to do it. Otherwise, we couldn't do it. So, and me during that time being I was a little new to ministry in the beginning. So we're trying to understand submission. And I'm thinking that I have to sit these things aside because it's what I want to do because I need to be submissive to, my husband and do, you know, that thing, do the thing that he wants to do instead. So I denied myself a lot to please him because I knew that he was jealous of what I had in me.
Now I cannot go forward without reading this that Jaquana um, just put on here. Keisha's oldest daughter. She says, regardless of all this, she was a dang good mother. We lacked nothing when it came to her providing for her girls and nurturing her girls. I have never experienced my mom not being there for me with all that she went through in her life. She still had enough to pour into us. A lot of people that have a lot of trauma, it's hard for them to be who they need to be for their loved ones, but that we never ever experienced. And then Nikki says, I agree, Jaquana. Wow.
Um,
Now, doesn't that takes you to an emotional place,
it
Keisha?
does. It really
That
does.
tells me a lot about you. It's one thing for us to think certain ways, but when the people that were affected by your decision can come back and say they lacked nothing, you did the same thing for them that your mother did for you. She protected you here. That's why you weren't messed up. That's why they're not messed up. So I applaud you. So
Thank
what is that? What are you thinking now? Because you're very emotional now. What is that? What does that do to you on the inside?
you. It's my life's goal to be a good mother. I've always wanted to be a good mother. Um, and I do anything for my girls. And they know that. Um, it's hard sometimes when I try to process everything that I've gone through and dealt with. And it helps me understand where my mother was in her effort to try and take care of us as well. It was healing for me when my mom came to me in my 30s and told me, I'm sorry. I never wanted y'all to go through what y'all went through. I never meant for.
I know, I hear you. And I would love to have been honored to meet your mom because she's a strong woman, and back in those days, they weren't taught.
Right.
They weren't taught. They weren't taught the stuff that we know. But knowledge is power, guys.
Yeah.
And these shows, there's so much information out there on the internet. We have to work together. When you see somebody being abused, get in their business. We do it on Facebook all the time, right? We get in people's business on Facebook. We go on people's business and all of this social media BS. But when it comes to someone physically being hurt, now we don't want to get involved. It
Yeah.
takes a village. We got to get back to those days where we did get in people's business, that we did get involved, that he knew, because if that entire community would have come up and threatened to whoop his behind, I guarantee you he would have thought twice. He'd be like, all right, I got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we as people, We have to change. We have to, it's going to take more than calling 1-800-799-SAFE. It's going to take more than just calling and going and staying at a shelter for a week. We have to get serious and intentional
Mhm.
about domestic violence. This is a public health issue, guys. It's
Mhm.
killing people, it's dividing families. When I look at the stats, I want to talk to you guys. 1 in every 3 women is experiencing domestic violence. That means if you know 3 women at your church, at least one of them is going through this. They may come to church with their big hats, looking good, maybe even bigger, the biggest tither, but something is missing. Okay, you can't be fooled by these appearances. We saw that Nikki was saying she had no idea that Keisha was going through this. Kentucky, 1 in 4 men. Okay, now I know a lot of you guys say, "Oh, come on, are you serious? Men are actually being abused?" Yes, I've interviewed at least 3 right here on the Ella Johnson show. So don't be, mocked. Don't be fooled into thinking that men aren't being abused as well. Kentucky is the state with the highest cases. 45% of the women in Kentucky are experiencing domestic violence, and 35% of the men. That's high. That's in Kentucky. 1 out of every 3 people that you see that are being abused, they become abusers. So when you see these people out here abusing somebody, get into their history. Go back into their history. And 9 times out of 10, they were abused in some kind of way, whether sexually, physically, emotionally. Um, 55, I mentioned this earlier, 55% of the homicides are IPV related. That means they were intimate partner violence. Okay, guys, that's a lot. Homicides, that means people are also dying behind this. I am fortunate to interview people who made it out. And the reason we have to keep doing this is so that you're not one of those statistics. If you are going through something as serious as what these women and men have gone through in these homes, I don't care what kind of lifestyle you have. I don't care what you feel like you can't do without them. Where there's a will, God always makes the way. And for those of you that have these visions, where there is a vision, God will always make the provision.
Mhm.
Always remember that. And that's what happened to Keisha. And that's why I'm excited about her single, Send Me an Angel. And I'm going to put her website up here right now, guys. There's her website. You'll see it right now on the comments. I want you guys to take a look and go to her website and get more information about this wonderful, beautiful woman, great mom that's sitting in front of us. I tell you, Keisha, it takes a lot to go through what you went through and still be there for your babies, because usually that's the first thing that lacks, the children.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you had enough strength in you and enough God in you. Listen, I'm not letting them get my babies. Devil, you can't have my babies. I
That's right.
love it. I
That's
love
right.
it. I love it.
Yes,
Now,
indeed.
I want to share some things too, and you can add to this list, Keisha.
Okay.
Some of the signs that you can see in some of your friends, your coworkers, your church members, people that you see every day. These are some of the things that they do that you'll recognize, and you're like, oh, she does say that a lot. They're probably being emotionally abused. Here's one of them: not completely comfortable expressing themselves. They question whenever you do something nice for them, they always think there's something behind it. That's another one. Um, they told you at some point, or someone in their life, they're just not good enough, because now that person or whomever is emotionally abusing them has stripped all of their confidence. They overreact to small things. They apologize for everything, and they struggle with physical interactions with people. Now, do you know of different things, of course, Keisha, that you went through that could have been signs to people that you were being emotionally abused, or were you just that good that you hit it well?
Honestly, and I honestly, my friends would probably have to tell you if there was some signs that they noticed that was different with me, because I'm very different. I don't wear anything on my sleeve. I'm a glass full kind of girl.
Right.
I approach everything that way. I've always loved life and lived life, and um, tried to the best of my ability to be high and energetic in everything that I do. Now, they may not have known of every time, we had a fight, but some of them may have knew of some, or they may not have known to the depth of what they went through. But I don't think I was ever a woe is me kind of girl. Um, because it was just, I guess it's too hard to do that. Even in my depressive place that I was in earlier in marriage, I think I still, when I walked out the door, you just put that face on
Put
and
it on. That's
you know,
right.
you keep it moving because you don't want nobody to know what's going on in your house. You got to,
Of
make
course.
sure, everything is good. So I think I mastered that probably from, being a small girl, because we had to pretend like everything was okay when we went to school and pretend like
Of
everything
course.
when, you know, when we were out and about, you couldn't tell anybody anything. Kind of thing.
And that's an Alabama thing too. I don't know if it's more in other states, but you and I both, having grown up in Alabama, that was one of those things. Don't you go
Mhm.
out there, just like you said, go out there telling white folks your business. We
Mhm.
didn't. You didn't go to the school. You got a mark on your face. You fail.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we have to get out of that.
Yeah.
That mindset. We need to kill it because
Yeah.
that's killing our culture. That's killing us, literally killing us off
Mhm.
because we don't talk.
Mhm.
And I want to tell kids that when you see your mom going through something, talk, tell it.
Mhm.
She might
Mhm.
not have the strength to tell it. Tell it.
And that's what I was going to say. That's one of the things that we teach our kids all the time. If something's wrong, if somebody touches you, if somebody does this or something, you let us know immediately, or you tell somebody immediately, and we'll come take care of it and all that other kind of stuff. But when it comes to the house, you don't say nothing to nobody about it.
That's
So we,
right.
we we teach them the difference between how much they can say and how much they can, and we don't know what we do to them as small ones, as when they grow up and develop that, because they'll end up doing it in their house if they begin to suffer it. Well, I was taught way back here that we just don't do that. We don't talk about that kind of stuff. So we need to make sure we teach them to tell everything,
That's right.
even if it means getting mama to safety
Yeah.
or daddy to
Because,
safety, for that
but
matter.
parents will go so far as tell their kids, tell it and sit on, I whoop your behind. We'll actually threaten them with a whooping if they
That,
talk,
yeah,
right?
true,
That's
true.
one whipping that's worth
That's
it because
true.
you might save your mom's life, baby. Listen, I like what Julian said. Julian said, me being her son-in-law, I am grateful that she still trusted me with her daughter. Thank you so much, Snookums. Aw. I love it. And I gotta show you what Simonia said here. She was a pillar of strength. I had no idea. Truth is because she was a fighter. I never would have thought she experienced this, but I'm so proud of her for displaying the strength to get out.
Thank you so
I
much.
am too, because I believe that people will be encouraged by your story, Keisha. People that have watched this broadcast, you guys had to share this one because somebody may not tell you. They're not gonna
Mhm,
tell you because they post things on Facebook and they've already made you think they got it going on. But
mhm,
the time is out for that because half the people are probably lying on Facebook. You're not the only one. So
mhm.
if you want to survive and you want to live, it's time to talk before it's too
Absolutely.
late.
Absolutely.
So I want
Absolutely.
you to, for the next 5 minutes, I want you to talk and encourage the people that are watching the broadcast. We're almost out of here, guys. I want to thank you all so much for staying with us. But I want you to advise our people that are watching this broadcast who may be suffering in silence right now, Keisha.
I say speak now. If you are suffering from domestic violence, speak now. Tell somebody, and tell somebody to tell somebody. We're in a share world right now. When you post something on Facebook or you post something on Instagram or whatever these social media handles are and things like that, we'll talk about share, 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 put it out there. Tell
Mhm.
somebody, tell them to share it. Get as many people involved as possible because it is going to take a village to help you. I can't tell you how important it was for the Simonias, for the Nickies, for my kids, for all my friends and things like that was in my life to help me when I thought I was going insane during this process, to help me mentally and physically and emotional and even financially as well. You're going to need. And if you got a good circle or you don't feel you have a good circle, there's a circle that can be made for you because people will fold into place. You just got to open up your mouth so they can run to you. It's just like that baby, a mother that has a child, and there can be a crowd out there, but that mama can hear that baby crying and know that that's her baby. That's how we will
Yeah.
be in the midst of this situation when it comes to domestic violence. We will hear your cry. There's people out there that's waiting and ready to help you. And I say to the people who are waiting and ready to help, be in it for the long haul, because it's a long
That's
road,
right.
and we'll have that back and forth. Those of us who go through it, we'll have that back and forth. Like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I need to go back. You don't know how long we've dealt with it on a mental in a mental state, and where our minds are, because we've been there so long, we think it's normal. So we want to get back to normalcy as quickly as possible. And sometimes that makes us go back into the situation. We need you to say, get it together, girl. We got you. No, we're gonna hold you here. We're gonna make sure you don't go nowhere, so that they can know that they have somebody that supports them. Because if we feel like
Yes.
you're getting tired of us, if we feel like a burden in any kind of way, it pushes us back to those particular
Exactly.
situations. So
Yes.
you got to make sure that they know that you are in this thing for the long haul, so that they can know they got that solid foundation to help them get out and stay out. Getting out is not the hard part. Staying out is the hard part, because we always want to get back to that normalcy.
Wow, that's a good point. Getting out is easy, but staying out is harder.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
and you know, I there are a lot of support groups on Facebook and some of these social media for people that have been abused. Reach out, do your homework, and get involved with other people that are like you, and they can lead you down a path to help you get a plan to get out as well. And another thing, like you said, Keisha, if if you made somebody think that you're in it, be in it for the long haul.
mhm,
Don't trip if they say, look, I need $20 for gas.
mhm,
I
mhm,
need $20 to buy
mhm,
just a few groceries until I
mhm,
get my check, until I
mhm.
get this. Don't
Especially if they have
complain,
kids. Yeah.
and don't talk about them and to where
Mhm,
it's going to get back to them. There is nothing
mhm.
more discouraging to a person to think somebody cares and they really don't,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
don't be so quick to want to tell everybody they got to go to church. Okay?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
not always the answer either. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. 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 And because, even though you want to go to church and you want God involved, we can pray right here at the house. You can pray for me right here. I may not want to be out in the open with all those folks and everybody wanting to know what's going on, because, again, you're dealing with embarrassment. You may be ashamed. We
That's
may be
right.
feeling guilty, like a lot of things are our fault. This may not have happened if it wasn't for this. This may not have happened if it wasn't for this. So we've got a lot of feelings and emotions going on. Sometimes we just need to vent, and we just need you to listen. We don't need you to
Right.
give us anything back. We don't want to be, judged for, staying. We don't want to be in judge. We don't even want to be judged for thinking about going back, kind of thing. But we do need you there to help us, and to say, I got you. I'm here. You know,
That's right.
I'm not going to let you go back. Even if you want to, I'm not going to let you go back. It's kind of almost like when you got somebody with in a drug addiction kind of thing, where they're in and out, in and out, in and out. They want to quit, but something on the inside of them chemically keeps them going back, because it's been in them for so long. And it
That's
takes
right.
a long while for them to be able to stay away. And that's kind of like these particular situations. It's been in you for so long, it's hard to stay away. So it takes time as you get that old stuff out, and you're pouring in new stuff that's going to help you with your foundation.
Now, Jaquana has the last question of the night for us. I think it's a very good one. She says, I know me, Precious, and Creature were not easy kids to deal with. How did you not lose your mind going through all that mentally, emotionally, and physically abuse that you went through? How did you not snap?
Um, Honestly, I think I did snap.
And you would have
Honestly,
been justified
yeah,
in that.
yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, I think I did snap. Not on my kids. I was a firm mother when it came to things. I just had a standard. Certain things that my girls couldn't do. I just, I didn't want things to be the way it was for them, for me as a young girl. So I was strict with a lot of things that they could and couldn't do, and all that kind of good stuff, because I just wanted different for them.
That's
So
right.
I didn't have to snap about a lot, because honestly, I had good girls. I really had good
Aw.
girls. I had a middle one who would challenge me often, but
There's always one. You know that, right?
they said that middle one is most like me. So I always say, I'm gonna go back
Strong.
and apologize to everybody who had to deal with me then if the middle one was like me. But I really didn't have bad girls. Your typical teenager,
Of
dealings
course.
and things like that. But I had great girls, respectful. I still have great girls, respectful girls that love their mom and love the Lord, and just I've got precious girls. So they're really, honestly, Jay, I don't with y'all. There really wasn't a reason to snap. It's just
Aw.
loving through it, kind of thing. So I might have to get you in your collar every now and again, but no snapping.
I know. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you that tuned in to this broadcast tonight, her family and friends. One more thing, Keisha, I want you to speak
Yes.
to your family and friends that did tune in. I want you to thank them.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'm so in love with my circle, with my family and my friends, and everybody that loves and support me. Even musically, they come out and they support me and hear me sing and do my thing, and stuff like that. I love y'all so much. Thank y'all especially for supporting me in this and talking about this on this particular platform, because y'all know how I am. I'm super excited about who is going to help. Please share it as well. And, my girls can talk about it from their perspective. My friends can even talk about it from their perspective, because when I say they were there for me, they was
were
there
there.
for me.
I love it.
Great help in the process. So thank you guys. I love y'all so much.
And I want you guys to stay tuned, because she is going to be writing a book. And the title of that book is In Her Hands, that chronicles her entire life. So you guys stay tuned for that. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show tonight. And before we, earlier in the show, I know some of you may not have been there at the beginning, but I gave you guys a thought for the week. And it was, what's in your dash? And it's like, well, Ella, what do you mean? What's in your dash? Well, I'm glad you asked, because when we die, all right, on our tombstone, it's going to have the day you were born, and it's going to have the day you died. And there's a dash in between. And I want you guys to think about what's in your dash. What are you doing in your life that's going to make a difference for somebody else?
So
all right, guys. So I thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back this time next week. I need to see, I really want to make sure I have all my, okay. I want to make sure that everybody's comments are there. And Jaquana is sending a laugh. And Simonia, Walmart, LOL. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next week right here at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central for more true stories on the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. We'll see you next time.
We are supporters of the Ella Johnson Show. We live in South Korea. We have been watching Ella Johnson Show for like a year now. And we love her show. Her show is very inspirational, motivational, and educational.
If you would like to be a guest on the Ella Johnson Show, send an email to theellajohnsonshow@gmail.com or send a text message to 407-334-6997.
We love Ella Johnson Show.